Welcome to the Practice You podcast. My name is Elena Brower. Together, we'll explore and enjoy content and conversations around mastering transitions in our relations, our wellness, our careers, our families, and especially in our missions and visions. You are invited to learn and love and listen with me. Welcome to Practice You. Welcome back to the podcast. It's been a moment since I recorded, and I am so happy to be with one of my very best friends on planet Earth, Marc Holzman. You are a certified Ayurveda practitioner. You are an Amrit Yoga Nidra teacher. You have over 20 years experience teaching Hatha Yoga and Meditation. You live happily now between New Jersey and Paris with some medical tourism in Los Angeles on the annual. We have the great pleasure of sharing today what I think is your finest hour in the scope of your work, and as I've seen you over the last 2 decades create what it is that you're here to deliver. Your understanding of Ayurveda is vast and deep. And the course that you are now launching for a second time is called Microhabits.
Right.
I do believe in the heart of my heart that this is the most important conversation that we can be having. So our listener, as I introduce you to Marc and as we start to talk about what these microhabits really entail, listen for yourself as to where exactly in your life you can start to install little microhabits, not just for the sake of getting well, not just for the sake of living longer, but for the sake of trusting yourself. This is where I stand with microhabits. So Marc, couple of other things I want to point out from your bio first. You do teach on livekick.com, which is one of my favorite platforms. And you also have this sort of worldly 2 audiences. You have an audience in Europe with whom you like to work for the last, how many years has it been that you've been living
12 years
in Paris on
12 years in Paris now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a long time since I left.
2010. I gauge everything by which man I was dating at the time. So that was the beginning of the Bentley years.
Got it.
Happy years.
And still in the James years.
And now here we are. So we're still in the James years. 10 years later. We're almost 10 years in with James.
That's right.
Amazing.
Love
But
it.
notably about Paris, you co-founded the Guerrilla Yogi community, which is a donation-based community class. That's just the best, my favorite. I've done it, I've taught it, I've taken it. It continues to thrive in Paris, the Guerrilla Yogi. So if you're looking for it, it's Guerrilla. Oh, actually 1 R, 2 L's, pardon.
That's a very generous introduction. Thank you.
It's just true.
Yeah.
It's just what's true.
Yeah. The funny thing is that the Guerrilla Yogi, I started that in Los Angeles, and then I left. I went to Paris, where I'm living half the time. And it's become something that I do in any city that I end up landing in as a way to build a community. So it's like I bring that with me, this roving, itinerant donation class, whatever city I sort of land in. So
beautiful.
Yeah. You know, I was just thinking, once I heard New Jersey, just kind of dovetailing with that, the reason why I am in New Jersey, where I grew up, is because my mom is there. She'll be 94 years old in October. And as an only child, her health, she's in great health right now, but is my complete responsibility, both financial and physical. I live close to her, so I can tend to her when needed. And when we're talking about Ayurveda, when you were just talking about it, about wanting to be healthy, beyond wanting to be healthy, when I'm when I'm caring for her, it reminds me that one of the reasons that self-care is so important, especially with Ayurveda, is so that we are well enough to be in service to others. That was the first day of my Ayurveda. I was in a 2-year training to be a practitioner. My Vaidya Jagopal, we sometimes call him Dr. J, big letters across the blackboard. Dharma, which is your life's work, your mission that your soul signed up for in this lifetime. We can get specific in the swadharma, like the little things that you do, but the main thing is to relieve the suffering of others. And caring for people, especially an elder, it takes energy, it takes a vibrant mind. Um, so it's not just about feeling good for the sake of feeling good. It's in the bigger, broader picture. How can we feel good so that we can be of service to our family, to our friends, to our community, our state, our country, our universe? This is why I get very excited about Ayurveda. So,
Thank you for that. The reorientation toward the broader dharma, I think, is really important and much appreciated. Thank you.
yeah, it takes good health. Life could be hard, and it takes good health and a vibrant mind to be able to navigate and be of service in that way. So, and this is where Ayurveda really shines. Also, because it's in a way very simple.
It is very simple.
It's very household. I mean, half the things, half the herbs and spices that are used in Ayurveda, you probably either have growing in your backyard, or you can find at your local market. So it's very accessible in that way.
Right. And when it comes to, I just sort of want to put all of this together when it comes to, let's say, first thing, starting your day.
Hmm.
One of the most important practices that I have is actually the tongue scraping and oil pulling.
Yes.
It seems to be working. My gums are not receding anymore.
Hmm.
And I managed to live for almost 3 years without getting COVID. I finally did.
Right.
But I think
Right.
keeping our oral biome clean with that very first core practice of dinacharya is one of the reasons.
Absolutely. And the great thing about this, that's one of the first habits in the series of the microhabits. The reason why I love this habit so much, it sort of exemplifies this whole like small changes equal significant, results, is the tongue scraper is small. It is easy to use. It doesn't take more than 10 seconds to do. And it does so much. It does so much, not only, as you said, to keep the biome clean, to clarify the taste buds so you can taste your food, because often the tongue can start getting caked up with mucus and bacteria. So to be able to clean it, you're not only clarifying your taste buds, but it's also a diagnostic tool. So what I sort of present to you and our audience here is, when you wake up in the morning, stick your tongue out and take a look at your tongue, because your tongue is the part of your digestive system that you can see. It's not just something that flaps around so you can talk, right? That's one thing. But it is a it's part of the food tube between the mouth and the anus. It's the part that you can see. So whatever is going on in your gut is going to be reflected on your tongue, so that if you open your mouth and you look at your tongue in the morning and you're seeing a lot of white gunk, we call that ama, A-M-A, not to be confused with Amma, the hugging saint, A-M-M-A. Ama literally means undigested. So we take food in, we take all the stuff in from the outer world, we bring it into our inner world, our own physiology. Hopefully, we completely absorb and assimilate what we need, and then completely eliminate what we don't need. Now, if there's anything left over that is undigested, ama, that's a problem, especially when it starts accumulating day after day after day from poor eating habits and poor timing in eating habits. My point here is that when you look at your tongue in the morning and use your tongue scraper, that's also a diagnostic tool. So you can see how much you're scraping, how much you're scraping off your tongue. Now, you're seeing it's presenting on the tongue. It can be in the bloodstream. It can be in your joints. You'll know you have too much if you're feeling really sluggish in the morning. One of the sort of the gold standard of Ayurveda and how your quality of health is that you should be able to wake up in the morning and feel relatively clear and light. Yes, there will be some sluggishness, obviously, because you've been sleeping, it's been dark, you haven't been moving. But if it takes you a long time, if people say they need like 5 cups of coffee just to don't talk to me until I have my coffee, that's a problem. And the problem is probably that there is a lot of in the system. So it's a diagnostic tool. And then thirdly, just like in reflexology, where the organs are mapped out on the bottom of the feet, in Ayurveda, we say that the organic body is also mapped out on the tongue. So when you and there's charts you can Google that the lungs are in this part of the tongue and the heart is when you scrape your tongue. This reminding all of you that we're just talking about tongue scraping, the profundity of just like this little tool. You're also
Dude, I can tell what I ate the night before. I can tell the next day. It's so obvious to me, the difference between meat and vegetables, and not that any one is preferable or not. I can see and feel it.
Yes. And you start taking note and you can start writing down and keeping a little journal. I'm not crazy about journaling about my food stuff, but you need to look. And if there's a lot of on your tongue, you need to sit down with the journal and just contemplate what you did the day before. And how can I make that a little better? How can I change that? It's also great to initiate your digestive fire in the morning, which can be a little sluggish. Just that little pressure on the tongue. You don't have to go hard. Just from back to forward a few times, get the off. That pressure on the tongue actually begins to kind of just ignite the Agni, the metabolism. Now that's just tongue scraping.
And that's just tongue scraping. The next thing that I do is the oil pulling, which I think is part of your course, yes?
Yeah, that comes under the sense organ care week, or how we take care of.
Tell our listener about that.
Yeah, about tongue scrape, about the oil pulling or the
oil pulling. Yeah.
So what oil pulling does and how you do it is you take a small amount of oil. It can be either coconut oil or sesame oil. Understanding that if you are not used to having oil in your mouth, might make you gag a little. We're not asking you to swallow it, but some people, if you haven't had something so viscous in your mouth, it might, something you get used to. You can use just a little bit. You swish it around your mouth. It's great for the jaw. It's great to strengthen the jaw. It also pulls all of the bacteria out, not only in your mouth, but in the head, in the neck, in the upper chest. It's a real cleanser for the upper body to remove what we call kapha from the upper part of the body. There's some debate on how long to do it. I was taught by my teacher that if you're going to do it just once in a while, that 20 minutes is ideal. I know that sounds like a lot, but honestly, you can multitask with this. You put a little bit, set a timer. You can do some emails. It's not as long as you think. If you're going to do it every day, you can probably get away with 5 to 8 minutes would be fine. So, and then you spit it out. You can spit it out in your garbage can. Over time, you can it's not great for the drains. That's why I say, don't spit it out certainly don't swallow it. All of that you've just accumulated into oil, but you can spit it out into the garbage or figure it away. You're not clogging your drains up.
Yeah, usually I spit it out into the trash at the toilet.
That's fine. It makes your eyes brighter. It makes your teeth whiter. All of that. It's another kind of small thing, in all of the sense organ care. And I've said this before. Oh my, as I get older, I have an aunt who's in a nursing home now who can't see. And I think, oh man, you want to keep your senses. That's how we experience the world. If your senses are dimmed or eliminated by 10%, your participation and experience of your life is diminished by 10%. You really, those are like, it's how we take the world in. Super important.
What I would like to know now is the sort of flow of microhabits of the course. I think it's at a really important point in our time on this planet that we have to start going inward and addressing ourselves. Like I said at the very beginning, trusting ourselves. And as you very wisely added, so that we can be of service with longevity and a vibrant mind. I want to know the flow of this course and what can our listener expect.
Absolutely. That's a great question because there is a crumma, a sequence to this that I found is, because there are quite a few habits, and it's important that they're taught in a way that where it doesn't feel overwhelming. Some of the habits, the students or the clients may be doing already, um, but it's important that the sequence there's a method and to the madness of the sequence of all these habits. One of the first habits is to eat an early and light dinner. And the reason why that's important, because the habits that come after that, which is early to bed and then early to rise. So the first three I find are the hardest. If a student is not doing that already, it can be overwhelming if you're not in that habit zone already.
I see it actually in our house because we were in a habit of eating pretty late. And now we're dialing it back so that we're eating, right before 7. And even that feels a little bit late.
Well, actually, not too bad. I like to be done with dinner by about 6, and you have some wiggle room there, right? I don't like to be too, strict with. Everyone has a certain life that people don't all get home at the same hour, and this and that. But dinner between 5 and I'd say 6:45 is not so bad, not so bad. The idea here
But I
is,
meditate at 5:30. Shit,
hey, listen, that's a good
for
thing.
the hour.
That's a good thing.
I'm gonna have to figure it out with them. I think 6:45 is like our
Right,
window
right.
of reality.
Exactly. Well, also, and this is what I'll certainly teach in habits because it's not only about Ayurveda. The reason why I love this course, I'm so proud of this course, it's not just a flat theoretical teaching of Ayurveda. It's a learning Ayurveda by doing. Through the habits. So it's a great combination of the two. And one of the ways that we begin to get better with habit change is it's sort of like the main habit change science ingredient is something called the Kaizen method, which is small, small changes. If you have been eating dinner at 7 o'clock, then just dial it back by 15 minutes. You don't have to be extreme and dial it back to 5 o'clock. 6:45 is great. It's a perfect place to start. And if you want to go earlier than that, then you can go down another 15 minutes. But in incremental, um, and don't forget, Elena, we're also fighting the momentum of our history, of our past. We ate late. We ate at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. Dad came home from work. It was meat and potatoes at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So I think a lot of us are working against this cultural momentum that we already have in the past, which is like, oh, dinner is the biggest meal and it's kind of late at night. So I have to, reprogram myself a little. Plus, I have lived and I still live in cities where I know you also lived in New York City as I did, where the rhythm of a city is counter to the Ayurvedic circadian cycle, where people eat late, they go to bed late, they kind of wake up a little late. But eating an earlier and lighter dinner is the first habit because it leads us into an earlier bedtime. And we want to get a good 3 to 4 hours of nothing in the stomach before we go to bed. And one final thing I'll add on to that is, there's a lot of talk currently about intermittent fasting. Ayurveda proposes that there's a 12 to 13 hour period between dinner and breakfast where there's nothing in the system. So that's your intermittent fasting, between nothing in the belly between dinner and breakfast. If you can get to 13 hours, that's a great way for the body to kind of revitalize. You don't want your body to go into the process of digesting. Is really a heavy and strong process. It takes up a lot of energy. That's not the time. Middle of the night is not the time to ask your body to do something that was not designed to do, is to digest at 11 o'clock at night. That habit alone can there's a ripple effect. That habit alone is the sort of domino for everything else that comes after.
Right. I see it on my aura ring. When I eat late, my heart rate goes down.
Mm-hmm.
My sleep is interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as my blood sugar tanks in the middle of the night, this doesn't happen anymore, but I used to be waking up at the middle of the night because my adrenals would then fire off.
Correct. That's right.
So it's so much better now.
Yeah.
Knowing this.
Yeah. And we're also diurnal beings. I mean, yes, we're affected by the moon in nocturnal, of course, but we're meant to wake up with the sun. The sun rises, it's high, and then it sets. We wake up and then we go back to sleep. And we didn't evolve from the species of raccoons that kind of rummage through late at night. Our digestive system, we actually have, we don't even, from a Western perspective, we don't produce as much bile, which we need for digestion, after the sun goes down.
Right.
Sun goes down, your Agni goes down. It just goes with the sun in that way.
Right. It's good to Agni is digestive fire. It's good to know our listener just to see it like that. Like, okay, if the sun is down, the fire is off.
Yes, exactly. The fire is off, since our digestive fire is in direct correlation with the sun. So yes, eat that largest meal in the middle of the day. And then the nighttime meal, certainly you can eat, but have it be a little lighter. Something with more water content, since we're already 70% water. It's the easiest to digest. A nice hearty soup. Yes, you can have a crusty piece of bread if you like, but just keep it. And the kaizen for that is, if you can't eat earlier, then eat a little lighter. Start there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's always ways you can tweak it. Lowest hanging fruit, I call it, where you make the habit so simple that you can't say no.
Right. Right. The course goes for 6 weeks. Is that true?
Yes, 6 weeks. I used to teach this course starting in 2012. This is the second time I'm doing it in this new improved format. I kind of, how you teach a course, then you learn by, I'm like, okay, that worked, that didn't. It used to be almost 12 weeks. I found that to be a little bit too long. And I found that a 6-week period is just right. We take one habit per week, with a little bit of an integration week to make sure everyone's integrating what we've already done. October 3rd through November 13th.
But you'll run this again. No, it won't just be this year.
Correct. I'm looking to do this twice a year. I ran it earlier this year. I'll run it again October 3rd, and I'll probably do it again in the spring.
So spring and fall.
Yeah.
For our listener. Okay, cool.
One of the great additions that I didn't do in the beginning is recruiting Yoga Nidra into the mix, so that we're not only learning to implement habits from the outside in with this list of habits and trying to do, but also taking time several days a week to meditate in Yoga Nidra, because we can work from the inside out. When we're resting in pure awareness, resting in that place over time, the habits kind of realign there's like a Shakti, like a powerful inner housekeeping, house sweeping that happens from the inside out. So we're hitting it from both ends.
And then when it comes to the sort of middle of the day, I'm always curious to just hear the flow of a day for this sort of practice.
Mm-hmm.
Teach us a little bit about what happens after we tend to the oral biome.
Mm-hmm.
Then what?
So we tend to the oral biome in the morning. You can absolutely have something to eat in the morning if you're hungry. If you're not hungry, you don't have to eat. But if you are going to eat something, as we prep for the middle of the day, remember that we want to eat things that will kindle the Agni and not suffocate it. Think of it as like a burning log. Like you don't want to put a damp log on it. Think of, so you know, if you're going to have a cooked cereal, make sure you have things like cinnamon and turmeric, and you can even have a little black pepper on there. But something, not what I used to do, which is like, oh, I think I'll have some cold yogurt and frozen blueberries. That is just like funk. It just kind of kills the
Got
digestive
it.
fire. You know,
Got it.
fruit is okay, but not
And what about like a shake?
a shake is great. I would keep it light, and I would also lighten it. I would lighten the qualities of the shake with some turmeric, some ginger. If you can put a shake in there, something to warm it up a little bit, because ginger and turmeric are great for the digestive fire, for Agni.
Got it.
So if you're going to have a shake in the morning, that's okay. Just see if you can heat it up a little bit. So we have our most power during 10 and 2 in 10 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. We call that pitta time of day. You can eat your largest meal. This is usually when we do our most of our work. You want to eat this largest meal at this time of day, because after 2 or 3 o'clock, we're moving into something called vata time, which is which is air and space. And because those are the lighter qualities, the more subtle elements, you want to make sure that you're eating enough during the day to ground the energy so that you can make it through the rest. People often say, oh, 3 o'clock, I want to take a nap. 4 o'clock, I'm feeling kind of lethargic. It might be because you're not eating lunch, but you're not eating enough to ground yourself at that. You have to feed the pitta and the vata that comes after, the air and space, for the rest of the day, 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock. So that's the most important thing. You can take a walk after you eat. Yeah, this is work time and eat time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I do work really well when I have that big. I started making dal, and because James can't have onions and garlic, I make it without that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put in ginger or
Oh, it's so
a
good.
little bit of ume plum vinegar, some tamari. It's really
It's
nice.
really good. That's like dal is like India just bows. Ayurveda bows to the dal. That's the mung beans. You can put rice in there too. It's just a great source of protein. It's just heavy enough. It's great for the digestive fire. It's really grounding, and you can eat it. You can also eat it if you don't mind repeating. You can eat it for dinner too.
I have done so. We love this dal. I make it with lentils, little red lentils.
And just to go through the rest of the day, if we
Yeah.
get into vata time in the later part of the day, which is air and space, that's a great time for communication. Remember, vata, air and space, which is wind, has one of the qualities of mobility. Things move. So it's a great time for emailing, meetings, because communication can pass more easily between us during that time. And then when 6 o'clock p.m. comes, we're getting heavy again with kapha, earth and water time. So the sun is starting to set, the lights are going down, the temperature's going down, the energy is starting to get a little heavier. Certainly we know that like 7 o'clock at night doesn't feel like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, right? There's a heavier energy there. That's why we eat lighter. And we just start to do things at night that we follow to bed. We don't want to do our most stimulating work at that hour. That was supposed to be done during the day. I often say when people are so committed to this identity that they have, like I'm a night person, I do my best work at night. I think, as humans, I have to ask that person, are you really a night person, or are you plowing through kapha time between 6 and 10? And instead of doing nourishing, yummy things, earth, water, mud, heavy, instead of doing earthy things like maybe taking a bath or giving yourself an oil massage, part of a sense organ care, um, something, or reading something, that's, you take a walk, you be with your family, this yummy connection stuff. Are you blowing through that time and doing really arduous, stimulating work? You could be blowing by. You're not feeling the downward pull of energy, I guess is what I'm saying. You're not allowing yourself to feel the heaviness that naturally comes at this particular time. And then all of a sudden 10 o'clock comes, pitta time. You're like, oh, I got my second wind. I'm a night person,
Oh my God, yes. I used to say that. That's funny. That's the pitta time. Of course, of course, of course. If I'm not in bed by 10, it's trouble.
That's a perfect time. Ayurveda generally loosely says like in bed by 9:30, asleep by 10 is a pretty good deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Except when you're watching old movies with James and then.
Right. And then we know, and I know that like once you start putting the computer on and that blue light starts hitting your third eye and the pineal gland, then the melatonin production for the circadian medicine gets out of whack. We don't want to confuse the mind. Like we need the light during light times, and then we need the darkness.
So true. So true. We at least, if we are watching films, we stop them at about 10. And we try and keep nighttime films to older films.
Yeah, something a little more super.
If we're watching an old film, yeah, it's like super old, 30s, 40s, 50s
Exactly.
max.
No horror suspense.
Yeah. No. No. I only did that once in my life since I moved here. We watched Inception, which I hadn't seen. So what a phenomenal film, but wow, it was just too much to watch at night.
That's too much. Is that the Leo DiCaprio film, I think?
Correct. Really brilliant. Really brilliant.
So well done.
Yeah.
Yes.
She folds Paris in on itself. Like what? Oh my God. I nearly died. And of course they picked Paris for that scene. I think the real sort of notable aspect and why I wanted you to come on the podcast to talk about this course sort of ongoing is you've committed yourself to understanding these very subtle, energetic shifts in the body, in times of day, in our minds, in our hearts, to be a really efficient teacher of energy. That's what when I think of you, that's what I think of.
Absolutely.
And I think the Nidra part is a very important aspect of what you do.
Yes, that is a revelation. After teaching it now for several years, my advanced degree there from Amrit, it's Yoga Nidra is used for everything from to help with addiction and PTSD and to actually restructure good habits. Carving the time out to sit in pure awareness, God, self, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. There's a natural realignment when done methodically, systematically over time that happens almost effortlessly, where from the outside in, doing the habits can have an effortful feel. The Yoga Nidra is a way to meet the same goal, but with no effort. It just naturally happens over time when you sit in this place of pure awareness. So, yeah.
And you're such a skillful teacher of it. I really love taking your classes on Live Kick.
Mm-hmm.
When I can, they're very masterful.
Yeah. I was thinking of one thing where you just said something, and because I know you do this also. When we look at there's so much life coaching, business coaching, which I'm so happy to I love it. I love whenever everyone is in some uh, journey of evolution and process. What's so great about this course with Ayurveda habits is that before we can even go through these loftier aspirations, we need to get the nuts and bolts right. We need to like nail down living with circadian rhythms and having healthy physical and mental habits. I often think as a yoga therapist, and my doctor used to say this as well, my Ayurvedic doctor, that before we can even address, what the health of a patient is, whatever their malady is, what happens first when we simply put them in alignment with the circadian rhythm, which is nature's, into the sattvic arms of Mother Nature. And what happens? What kind of healing can happen there? We have this cute little adage in Ayurveda that goes first the word, then the herb, and then the knife, which is a cute way of kind of telling us that Ayurveda will always start with the least invasive. So even before herbs are prescribed, what the word means is kind of verbal guidance on how, and that's really what this course is, on how to put you in the circadian rhythm and see what kind of healing with nature just takes place there. Then we can move to the next step, which is, okay, now that you're adjusted with nature, now let's look at the herb that we can use.
Right. I never knew that. That's so interesting.
Isn't that something? So we can call that like health coaching is sort of like the word.
Right.
Then the herb.
Right. The real meaning of it.
Yeah. Then there's the knife, because in Ayurveda, there are some minor surgeries. We don't do them here in the US. They can do them in India, but that's like last. But word, herb, and knife. So I look at this as the word.
Right. Right. It's a fine offering that you make here. There's a reason why I wanted to have you here. A, I do love you, but B, I do think that it's really, really important for people to just go, okay, let's go back to basics. Here are a few things that you can do.
Yep.
Get closer to yourself, build trust, get super vibrant in your body and your mind,
Yes.
line up with the sun and the
Yes.
moon, and make your life a little bit more smooth.
Exactly. And the reason why we need some accountability and a course to do this is because, a lot of times some of these practices we didn't grow up with. Right? There's some Eastern practices. I didn't grow up with tongue scraping anyway, and and like I said, the eating things or habits are a little bit different. So we need accountability. We need to do this in a group. Quite often, people who take this course are the only ones in their family under one roof that is doing this habit evolution course. So they need the accountability of the group that we're with in the course to stay the track, to go the distance.
Yeah, I feel that. I love some accountability. It makes me feel really good to just have people to sit with, even virtually, or, work with on all sorts of things. I do that. Anything else that we haven't touched on that we should?
Besides that, I adore you. I would say I find that just one thing. One of the things we do in habit evolution is in the science of habit change is something called a Kaizen approach. It's a Japanese. This is really interesting. The Kaizen approach is a managerial tool that was used in businesses in World War II in America when they were turning car factories into tank factories. But I think it actually originates Kaizen since it's a Japanese with the Toyota company. And the whole idea is how can we make small, micro, that's why I call it micro habits, incremental changes so that we can receive a maximum, or the business can experience positive change overall. Small steps. And it actually works because we have a tendency to kind of just want to go cold turkey, or just in some ways just bite off too much that we can chew. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. like that.
Make it more difficult than it needs to be.
Exactly. Because when you look at something in its whole, it feels very overwhelming. Break it down, break it down, break it down, break it down. And also be kind of easy on yourself. I always say it's what you do 70% of the time that's really going to make the difference. We can't be 100%, spick and span.
That's so nice. The 70% really feels very spacious, and I appreciate that.
Yes. We can't get hard on we'll be really hard on ourselves. But as you do it, you're doing good, you're going through, you're scraping your tongue every day, and then like 1 or 2 days go by and you fall off. And it's all about getting back on the horse, as we just talked about something else, getting back on the horse, and that's it. The successful people, they'll always say, yeah, we make mistakes, we fail, here we are, but the reason why I am where I am is because I got right back on track and continued. We're human.
That's right.
It happens.
That's right.
There's a lot of allowance there as well. No scolding, no, shaming or negative self-talk at all.
Yeah, just support, empathy.
Yeah.
For yourself.
Yeah. And be of service.
I'm so proud of you. So proud of you.
Same to you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to sort of go back to what you said at the very beginning with regards to your mom, 94 years old, healthy, and you're there in New Jersey a good half the year,
right,
just so that you can tend to her, and that you use these micro habits of Ayurveda to ensure that you have a very radiant body and mind in order to be of the highest service to her. And I just want to point out, a lot of us are, if we haven't already, we're entering into a time where, caring for elders is going to be a part of our reality for some time. And it's nice to think about the idea of taking care of ourselves so that we can be efficient in those realms. It's a really sweet, closed loop.
Yeah, especially when you think, some people think that mistake self-care for in any way being selfish. Anyway, it's like completely opposite. I'm at an age now at 60 where I'm starting. Like I said, I also have an aunt, my mother's sister who's in a nursing home. I also have friends who some have cancer, and I thought, you know what, I need to be around. I'm seeing it more because I'm getting older. These are the things I'm seeing now. I need to, if I'm going to take care of my friends, I need to be diligent about taking care of myself. I've got to, because I need to take care of these people that don't right now have the strength, really.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for that distinction.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
James loves you.
Hello, James.
I told him I was coming in here to talk to you before, and he said, tell him I love him.
I love you, James. It's been a while.
Yeah, I'll make sure he listens to this.
Yeah, I'll give him a call too.
I love you so much. I'm so proud to be your friend all these years and to share your great, great work.
I so appreciate that. And I feel the same. I've told you, you're my silent accountability partner. There are many times when I'm stuck and I'm making out my course and I think, God, what would Elena do right about now? What was it? You're like my internal compass there. So you're a great inspiration.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to serve you in that way, etherically.
You walk the walk. So.
All right. The course is Microhabits. It's MARC, Marc Holzman, HOLZMAN.com/microhabits, one word. You can get all the information there. Like he said previously, 2022 is when we're recording, and it'll be from October to November. And basically every year, ongoing indefinitely, Marc will be offering this in the spring and the fall.
Right. Exactly. Perfect.
Thank you.
My dear, thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for listening who are listening to this. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Yes. And we'll talk soon. Very, very soon. Little catch up time.
Okay. You bet. All right. Bye-bye.